only to end up confused, heartbroken, or stuck in a relationship that slowly drains them. But almost 200 years ago, a philosopher named Arthur Schopenhauer pulled back the curtain and revealed something most men still can't stomach: the raw truth about female nature. His ideas were so honest, so brutal, that even today, people struggle to accept them. By the end of this video, you're going to see just how deep the deception runs, and what it really takes to reclaim your power. So stay locked in, because what you're about to hear isn't just controversial, it's the kind of truth that most men go their entire lives without ever understanding. See, Schopenhauer didn't buy into fairy tales. He didn't believe in soulmates or the idea of romantic destiny. To him, love wasn't some magical bond. It was biology, a trick of nature, a clever illusion designed for one thing and one thing only: reproduction. Here's the part that stings. When you feel that electric spark, that obsessive pull toward a woman, that feeling like she's the one, your brain isn't syncing up with her spirit. It's running ancient calculations, evaluating fertility, genetics, compatibility, status, survival. It feels spiritual, but it's survival dressed in romance. And women, they're doing the same thing, but their priorities are wired a little differently. Schopenhauer once said, "Love is the ultimate goal of almost all human effort. It is more important than anything else in life." But he wasn't glorifying it. He was warning us. Love, in his eyes, is a trick, a temporary high meant to push you into reproducing. And once that biological job is done, the illusion fades. Think about it. How many men have ruined their lives chasing a woman who ended up leaving without a second glance? How many marriages crash and burn once the passion disappears? This isn't bad luck. This is how nature operates. Women aren't selecting men based on fairness, kindness, or loyalty. Those are nice extras, but not the foundation. What they're actually wired to look for is strength, status, security, and superior genes. If you can't offer those, your devotion means very little. Schopenhauer saw it clearly. Women, he wrote, are not driven by reason, but by instinct and emotion. This isn't an insult, it's a neutral observation. Just look at the world around you. Look at dating apps. 80% of women chasing the top 20% of men. Look at divorce courts, where commitment can cost a man everything. Look at history. Kings brought to ruin by mistresses who betrayed them. The pattern repeats because the programming never changed. Most men still think love is fair. That if they just care enough, prove their loyalty, sacrifice enough, they'll be rewarded. But Schopenhauer cautioned, to be loved, one must not be just, but clever. Women don't fall for nice. They fall for strength. And not just physical strength, but social, psychological, and financial strength too. That's why the good guy so often finishes last. Not because he's unworthy, but because he's misreading the rules. He believes love is earned through effort. But women, biologically, are drawn to men who don't need to earn it. Ever notice how interest fades once you've secured the relationship? How the pursuit dies once you stop chasing? Schopenhauer called this the tragedy of possession. The thrill isn't in having, it's in conquering. And once a woman feels she's conquered a man, biology begins to move on. That's why the man who makes a woman his entire world eventually watches her walk away. But, and this is important, this isn't her fault. This is nature doing what nature does. And the man who understands this doesn't get bitter. He gets smarter. He stops blaming and starts thinking. Schopenhauer's message wasn't, hate women. It was, see clearly. Understand that love isn't a fairy tale, it's a transaction. And if you're negotiating from weakness, you're going to lose. Every time. And believe it or not, that's just the beginning. Because what comes next is even harder to accept. It explains why so many modern men are being outplayed. Why the traditional approach to love and dating keeps failing. And what you can do to flip the script. Schopenhauer saw something that most men today still refuse to face. The rules of attraction? they're not fair, they're not logical, and they're definitely not designed in your favor. Society might preach equality and fairness, but biology doesn't care. It plays by ancient rules. And the man who pretends otherwise, he's already behind. Here's the brutal truth. Women hold the power in relationships, not because they're manipulative, but because nature made them the selectors. Since the beginning of time, it's been this way. The moment a woman hits puberty, her value in the sexual marketplace skyrockets. For men, it's the opposite. You've got to build your value through your work, your mindset, your body, your status. Schopenhauer put it harshly, saying, "Women are suited to be the nurses and teachers of our childhood by the very fact that they themselves are childish, frivolous, and short-sighted." He wasn't mocking them. He was pointing to an evolutionary truth. A woman's youth and beauty are her leverage, and she knows how to use it, even without being taught. Just look around. The average man today is living in a state of contradiction. He's told to be sensitive and emotionally open, while women still chase dominance and confidence. He's encouraged to be vulnerable, while alpha types dominate every dating app. He works himself to the bone, only to face a system that can take his house, his kids, and half his income. Schopenhauer saw all of this coming. He wrote, "Women are directly fitted for acting as the nurses and teachers of childhood by the fact that they are themselves childish, frivolous, and short-sighted. In a word, they are big children all their lives." Again, not as an insult, but as a recognition of what nature designed. But here's where things get dangerous. Modern women haven't just embraced their biological advantages, they've learned how to weaponize them. Social media has turned attention into currency. And most men? They're giving it away for free. They simp. They orbit. They compete for scraps of validation from women who will never commit. Why? Because they've been sold a lie. That devotion, by itself, is enough. Schopenhauer saw this coming long before Instagram, TikTok, and dating apps ever existed. He warned that women are, in many cases, incapable of genuine love, at least the way men think of it. Because for women, love is almost always conditional. It's tied to what you can do, what you can provide. The moment a man stops producing value, the affection begins to fade. This isn't hatred, it's survival. Nature wired women to seek the best option available. And when a man stagnates, when he stops growing or providing, resentment creeps in. Replacement becomes inevitable. And modern culture, it encourages it. But Schopenhauer didn't just diagnose the problem. He hinted at the solution. And that's where we'll go next. But here's where things really start to shift. Because once you understand that attraction is largely unconscious, that it plays by rules you were never taught, you stop feeling victimized. You stop being confused when your commitment isn't returned. You stop asking, "What did I do wrong?" and instead ask, "What am I signaling?" And that, right there, is the turning point most men never reach. They keep playing by an emotional script that doesn't work anymore. They think if they just love harder, become more available, or show more vulnerability, they'll finally be chosen. But women don't operate on those cues. Schopenhauer saw it centuries ago. Love, as we understand it, isn't mutual sacrifice, it's mutual strategy. A trade, cloaked in emotion. Take a look at modern dating culture. It's built on attention, not commitment. On flexing, not connecting. Social media has weaponized the female ability to influence. Now, validation is currency, and women are the banks. Every like, every comment, every view feeds a marketplace where the average man becomes a customer, not a participant. And yet, most men willingly feed that system. They double text, plan elaborate dates, spend hundreds on someone who hasn't earned their presence, because they've been taught that this is how you win her over. But Schopenhauer's philosophy was clear. The more you give without value, the less you're valued. This isn't a call to bitterness. It's a call to awareness. There's a reason why women are drawn to mystery, to emotional control, to purpose-driven men. It's not that kindness isn't appreciated. It's that kindness without strength becomes dependency, and dependency kills attraction. This is what Schopenhauer meant when he said women live more in the present. They're biologically wired to assess a man's value in real time, not based on past devotion or future promises, but based on who he is right now. If you're not growing, she feels it. If you're uncertain, she senses it. If you're prioritizing her over your mission, she knows. And whether she admits it or not, she loses respect. Here's a painful truth. The more a woman feels like your purpose, the less purpose she sees in you. That's why men who give everything so often lose everything. They abandon their goals, downgrade their standards, and silence their voice, all for a shot at keeping her. But in doing so, they forfeit the very qualities that made them desirable in the first place. And again, this isn't a fault in women. It's a feature of nature. Biology doesn't care about your heartbreak. It only cares about the propagation of the strongest genes. And emotional strength, mental resilience, is a signal of survival. That's why emotional stability is attractive. That's why composure under stress is powerful. That's why she might test you, not because she wants to hurt you, but because her instincts are checking if you're the man who won't break when pressure hits. Every emotional outburst you avoid, every boundary you enforce, every moment you remain centered, you pass another invisible test. Most men fail these tests because they're unaware they're even being tested. They think they're in love. In reality, they're in an evaluation. And the evaluator, she's not conscious of it either. These aren't planned behaviors. They're evolutionary reflexes. And yet, if you recognize the game, you're not trapped by it. You're free to move with intention. Schopenhauer once said, "We forfeit 3/4 of ourselves to be like other people." And nowhere is this more true than in relationships. Most men lose themselves in a relationship because they never knew who they were before it started. They adopt her opinions, abandon their routines, drop their friends, redesign their lives around her approval, and then wonder why she's no longer attracted. Here's the paradox. The more space you take up in your own life, the more attractive you become in hers. That doesn't mean you have to be cold, distant, or manipulative. It means you need a spine, a mission, a non-negotiable sense of direction that no woman can derail. When she sees that, that's when respect is born. That's when attraction deepens. That's when you become the standard. And let's talk about standards, because most men don't have any. They'll date anyone who shows interest, sleep with anyone who gives them attention, commit to anyone who sticks around. That's not selection. That's desperation. And women feel it. You become powerful the moment you start choosing with intention. When your time is scarce. When your presence is earned. When your energy isn't freely given, but carefully invested. Women may not consciously understand what draws them to certain men, but subconsciously, they always know who's in control of himself. And that's the only man worth following. Now here's where Schopenhauer took it even deeper. He believed that the real tragedy wasn't women's nature, it was men's refusal to accept reality. The fairy tale hurts more than the truth ever could, because men want love to be simple. They want it to be about loyalty, consistency, and honesty. But love, especially romantic love, is rarely built on logic. It's built on polarity, and polarity requires difference. Masculine purpose, feminine energy, drive meeting receptivity. The moment that balance is lost, attraction dies. You've seen it. The man who becomes passive. The man who waits for her decisions. The man who lets her lead the relationship. He doesn't gain her love, he loses it. Because she doesn't want a partner she can control. She wants a partner she can trust to lead. And leading doesn't mean domination. It means direction, vision, the ability to say, "This is where I'm going, and you're welcome to come with me, but I'm going regardless." That energy, that is irresistible. Because it's rooted in self-respect. Schopenhauer's work was never about blaming women. It was about waking men up to the game they've been unconsciously playing and losing. His warning wasn't, hate women. It was, see clearly. Once you do, the fog lifts. You realize that the reason she left wasn't random. The reason she lost interest wasn't cruel. It was natural selection playing out in real time. And if you take that personally, you stay stuck. But if you take it seriously, you evolve. That's the moment most men miss. Instead of learning, they blame. Instead of growing, they withdraw. Instead of leveling up, they spiral down. But the man who gets it, he becomes dangerous. Because he's no longer confused, no longer chasing, no longer searching for permission to be whole. He builds himself. Silently, relentlessly. And in doing so, he becomes the very man women chase, but can't control. Never look inside. Not really. They look to women to complete them, to validate them, to give them a sense of self they never took the time to build. That's why rejection hurts so much. Not because they lost love, but because they lost identity. And when your identity is borrowed, anything that threatens it becomes existential. But here's the truth, she was never yours. She was never meant to complete you. She was a mirror, a reflection of where you stood as a man. And when the reflection changed, it wasn't a betrayal, it was a signal. A brutal, beautiful call to rise. You see, Schopenhauer understood something most modern thinkers ignore, that suffering isn't the enemy. It's the birthplace of wisdom. The man who suffers consciously grows. The man who avoids suffering repeats it. Most men repeat. They jump from relationship to relationship, from validation to validation, hoping to escape the sting of the last rejection, never realizing that every woman they meet is giving them the same lesson in a different form. Know yourself. But knowing yourself isn't poetic. It's surgical. It means cutting through layers of illusion, asking hard questions. Why do I chase what doesn't want me? Why do I shrink myself to be loved? Why do I mistake attention for affection? Why do I feel more alive in chaos than in peace? Most men don't want those answers. They want comfort. And comfort is the enemy of growth. It keeps you soft, reactive, lost in a world where your worth is decided by swipes, likes, and unread messages. But you weren't born for that. You were born to confront, to overcome, to become. That process. It's lonely. It's brutal. It's everything most men avoid. But it's also the only path to power. Because once you reclaim your mind, no woman can destroy it. Schopenhauer wasn't bitter. He was precise. He saw that the tragedy of man wasn't heartbreak. It was forgetting who he is because of heartbreak. And that's what this is really about. Not women. Not dating. Not strategy. But identity. The kind of identity that cannot be given or taken. The kind you forge when the world goes silent and you're left with only your thoughts, your flaws, and your truth. The kind that's born in solitude, that grows in discipline, that thrives in clarity. And here's the irony. When you stop chasing her, she starts noticing you. When you stop needing her, she starts craving you. When you become full without her, she feels the gravity of your presence. Because women are drawn to gravity. To men who don't move for every whim. Who don't bend for temporary pleasure. Who don't break when left alone. This is what the modern man must become. Unshakable. Not because he's emotionless, but because he owns his emotions. Not because he doesn't love, but because he doesn't lose himself in love. And when he does love, it's deliberate. Rooted in truth, not fantasy. Boundaried, intentional, and rare. That kind of love. It's magnetic. Because it's not based on need, it's based on abundance. On the reality that, I choose you, not because I lack, but because I overflow. Now let's be clear, this doesn't mean isolating yourself, or becoming bitter, or using stoicism as a shield for fear. It means becoming real, grounded, aware. It means no longer chasing women who don't see you, no longer explaining your worth, no longer trying to earn what should be natural. It means you become the selector. You create standards. You create structure. You create your world. And whoever enters it must come with respect, or not at all. This is what Schopenhauer pointed to, but never fully said. That the awakened man is dangerous not because of what he can do, but because of what he no longer needs. He doesn't need her to feel worthy. He doesn't need attention to feel alive. He doesn't need love to feel like a man, because he's chosen to love something greater, his becoming. And once you commit to that path, life changes. The anxiety fades. The confusion dissolves. The games stop. Because you're not playing anymore. You're building. You're leading. You're living. And suddenly, the world that once rejected you begins to follow you. Women feel it. Men notice it. The universe aligns with it. Because the man who leads himself commands everything else. That is the truth they never taught you. That is the code hidden beneath centuries of noise. That is the secret Schopenhauer tried to whisper through the cynicism of his time. You were never meant to be controlled by desire. You were meant to transcend it. Not to suppress it, but to master it. Not to reject love, but to choose it with clarity. Not to fear women, but to stop worshipping them. Because once you see clearly, you understand. The woman you choose will build or break your soul, only if you let her. But when you've built your soul strong enough, she can only make it better.